Welcome back, 50F fam. It has been a while since I've given you guys an update on the garden. As you can see, it is big and growing, and you've not seen it in a while. So on this video, we're actually going to take a look back at the garden and what it looked like in May when I started trellising the tomatoes. Back here's what the tomatoes look like now, and how worried I was on how that wasn't going to turn out. I'll give you guys a glimpse of that and a midway mark of when the trellising system started working, and what it looks like today and what we got going on today. We're in full-on garden mode, so we're preserving, we're selling our market boxes, and just producing and eating fresh out of the garden every day. This is my favorite time of year with the garden, and it is just in full swing, and this is what it looks like, guys. Should have gotten to this a lot sooner, but you know, life happens. I'm going to be staking up the last few of the tomatoes that are having some issues, and I'm probably going to try and do the Florida weave around these guys. I have kind of a big stance, so I'm going to be using the guinea. We've got one last guinea left. I'm not sure what happened to his partner, but he's been screaming nonstop for days now. Ah! There he goes. It scared me. I finally got that thing to go away. My goodness, he's driving me nuts. He's been screaming at me all morning. I do feel for the thing. He's all alone, and he'll only hang out with the chickens for a few minutes and then runs off, and then just starts screaming again for his partner. We've had two for a few months, and it was a pair. It was a male and a female, and now last few days, week or two, somewhere around in there, one has gone missing. And I thought I was sitting on a nest at first, because the females do that. They will get broody and they'll sit on a nest, but it's been a little while. Plus he seems to be freaking out. Usually the males will just kind of sit near the nest and kind of guard the female, and he's just wandering around screaming. So I'm thinking she's gone. I don't know. I feel for the guy. Let me go show you guys that sucker I was talking about. Let me go find one. Alright, so this one has a decent one. So a sucker is a branch that's coming off in the center of your V. So you'll have your V, which is your main branch, and then you have your stem. This is a sucker. And these, they call them suckers because they pretty much suck the life from your plant. So you just pull them off. Here's another good one right here. So you see this is it. And you just pinch it, and it pops right off. So you take that off, let your plant focus on branches that are actually going to give you some nutrients. This one I'm also need to prune way up because these are all touching the ground. We don't have as many disease issues because we have this fabric, but these lower branches aren't going to give you anything. And so you can just pull them off and let your plant focus on making more fruit and roots. And it helps with all the moisture to kind of get away from the plant, lets the air flow through. So I'm going to pinch all these lower ones off actually. This one looks like this is a branch. I thought it was a second plant coming up, which I don't really want that either. It actually is two here. I'm just going to let it be that might not produce as much. They might compete for water. I don't know. But it's too late to kind of pick one and go with it. So I'm just going to let them both go. So that happened with the seeds. They didn't get thinned out when I was thinning out the seedlings. But it looks a little bit better. I'm almost out of batteries, so I'm going to show you guys real quick what the Florida Weave is and why I'm using it to trellis this year. As I mentioned, I'm pretty much using it because I have no other option this year. I do have these extra posts that I'm helping to use support, which is helpful. But the Florida Weave is simply really just that. It's weaving. So you have an anchor point, which I'm using the T-post on the ends to give it more support because that's good and sturdy. And then you take your twine and you weave it. So you go on one side of your plant. I'm using the post as support. Then I go to the other side, and then you go back and forth holding up your plant. Then you go to the next T-post and then you come back. And then when you went on one side of the plant, in one way, when you come back, you go on the other side of the plant. And you just keep weaving it back until you come back to your anchor point. So you can see this one doesn't actually have a post to help hold it up, but it's got a piece of twine on each side that gives it a little bit of support. Now, as the plants get really heavy, the system isn't the best, but you know, you gotta make do with what you got, and this is what we got this year. I think it'll do okay, especially if I go back through and I actually prune a whole lot more off and keep the plants more pruned so that they're not so heavy. Otherwise, they're just gonna fall over. But for this year, this is it. We're using the Florida Weave method. It's not a bad method, but I have a feeling it's not gonna be my favorite, especially with the amount of plants that I have. If you only have 4 plants, great. Plus you could put them closer together. So earlier I was telling you guys about the guinea and how he's been screaming nonstop for like 2 weeks, and that something must have happened to the other one. I originally thought she was on a nest. Turns out she really was on a nest. She just came back. So she's been on a nest somewhere for like 2 weeks. So he really was just throwing a fit and telling her to come on. And no, I don't feel so bad. There's 2 of them. I think she's going back to her nest. It's the first time we've spotted her in a while. Glad to know she's still alive. Now that I've made them mad again, she's going to run back to her nest. It's where I thought they were. It's across the street at the neighbor's house. She tends to go over there a lot, so I had a feeling that's where she'd make her nest. They have higher fields, so it's more area for them to hide and make a nest, whereas we keep ours mowed short, and not as many places to build a nest. So that's where she ran off to. Okay, the last time I showed you this garden and the trellising system and the tomatoes was May, and this is actually going to be on the same episode. This is going to be our June update. Now we are in, today's June 9th or 10th, to be honest I'm not sure, it's 9th or 10th. So this is kind of an update. Beginning of this video was the beginning of May, when we were just starting to do the Florida Weave system. I'm not exactly happy with it, but it's not terrible. Today I've spent a couple hours pruning and tying things up, and it's looking decent. We have quite a few tomatoes. I did have a couple break. Tomatoes break in the last storm that we had a couple nights ago, because they weren't trellised really well. They gotten a little bit overgrown. But I'll show you guys around a little bit and show you exactly what's happening. And I'm not normally someone who prunes really heavily, but because the system is the way it is, I have to. Especially here in the south, we have such high humidity that tomatoes get diseased really, really easy. Now the black fabric does help with disease because the branches aren't touching the raw ground, so where they get blight and things like that, there is a little bit of disease going on, but not terrible. And so I'll show you some things that I've noticed on this pruning, on some things, and I guess kind of an update on the Florida beef. All right, I'm going to show you an example of something I have not pruned, and I've only trellised it one level high. So this is what the plants look like before I started trimming today. So this one I've not done. So it's very bushy. The branches are all the way to the ground, and that is just a little too much weight and too much moisture. I'll show you on this plant over here why I know there's too much moisture inside the plant. So if you look here, you can see these little nodules. This is where the plant is actually starting to try and root. There was so much branches down here that there was moisture inside, and it thought, oh my gosh, I need to get this moisture, I'm underground. So it really thought that it was underground because there's so much moisture. Our humidity and our dew point is just so high here. Now that I've trimmed all this back, it should get better airflow in here and hopefully not get as heavily diseased like it was just trying so hard to make branches. And it was actually beautiful. It was actually very beautiful and bushy, just like this one. This one I would say is a very beautiful plant. It's just long term, it's not going to produce as much. It's making lots of leaves and not as much fruit. Now there is some fruit on it, and it looks nice, and it is nice and healthy. It's not diseased yet, but it will become so if I let it stay. You can see where some of the branches are starting, the leaves are starting to turn and get these spots on it. That's what I'm trying to avoid. Now you can see back here, this is a different breed of tomato, has a different type of leaf, but I have pruned way up high on it, and that's what I'm trying to do with everything. Get all the branches up off the ground, get good airflow, and also get some of the weight off of these strings. Pruned a whole bunch off of this one. This is everything that came off that one tomato plant. Seems like a lot and it seems extreme. But now you can see the tomatoes underneath. I can see if there's pests on them. I can see all the things, and then there's plenty for it to grow up. Whoa. Looks nice and healthy. Alright, saved by the call of Jesse. I'm done. He needs my help, so off to the next project. Here is the potatoes. They are actually going to be ready to harvest by the end of this week. You can see where they're starting to die back, which is why I actually decided to do this video, so you guys can get a glimpse of those before they're gone. The squash and zucchini, well, we're having a rough year with squash vine borers here. So some of those are already starting to die out because of pests, because we are organic gardening. And so everything is getting attacked by the bugs big time. But some of them are still nice and big. The weeds are also loving all the fertilizer and the fresh watering, and it is hard to keep up with. We have our cucumbers. They're doing great and awesome. Green beans, I've already done a whole batch of green beans of canning. Gotten 14 jars of those. There's about to pick another one. We've also eaten them a couple nights fresh. And then the eggplant and peppers, we're quite stunted from the crazy weather we've had, but they're starting to bounce back and they're looking good. And as you can tell, we also need to come in and weed. Weeding is a non-stop job here. As soon as you pick them, they come right back. And then we have our corn. On the opposite side, we actually have a couple of watermelons. But they're pretty small still, and some cantaloupe. Here is our black Cherokee. I think they're called Cherokee, yeah. No, Trail of Tears. I'm getting Cherokee purple tomatoes and Trail of Tears confused. This is Trail of Tears black bean. This year will just be all about growing and then saving the seed for next year. So got them here and there. And then all the tomatoes. Now it's been hard time. I've had a hard time getting these trellised and trimmed up. It's been a little bit of a feat to get done, but it is growing and looks good. I have nice rows. And as you can see here, and here, we're gonna have a ton of tomatoes here soon. And I am excited. Tomato season is the best season, and it is coming quickly. So this is a quick little tour of the garden. Hopefully I'll be able to give you guys more updates as it goes, but you know, things grow quick and life goes quick. So that was a quick rundown on the garden and a quick garden tour. It's been a bit crazy and wild, just trying to keep up with everything and the crazy weather. It's weird that we're kind of in a drought, but when we do have weather, it's extreme. So it's been really harsh on the garden this year. This corn, we've had to replant it 3 times because it's been ripped up. So it's pretty stunted this year. It's not that happy. The bottoms are like a little bit sad. And then we've had things break and snap from the wind and tomatoes rip and stuff. So it's been a bit wild, but we will still have a good harvest this year. And I'm pretty excited. We've gotten where I have found someone that I can trade milk for veggies with. So I'm super excited about that because goat milk is something that my kids can actually drink, but I'm not really ready to produce here on the farm. It's not inside my wheelhouse or capabilities at the moment. I'm already so full and booked that I could not imagine adding another responsibility right now. I can barely keep up with things as it is. So dairy goats are out of the question, but I found a way to get it. And I'm using trade, and so it doesn't cost us anything, and we get to bless them because they're full with doing the dairy goats. They're not able to do a garden. So for us, it's a perfect trade-off. I'm focused on the garden, they focus on the dairy goats, and we trade, and it's perfect. They're all local, and we get to bless each other, and I'm very thankful that worked out for us. So there is our little update. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll try to stick around, see more of the preserving this year. I should be diving straight into that soon. The cucumbers are starting to produce, so I'll be doing tons of cucumber pickles and relish next. And at some point you guys will see us do the green beans too. I'm not sure if I've said a good goodbye to you guys yet, but that is it for this. I'm off to go mow the backfield. It is already getting hot, so I'm trying to get to it before it gets too hot. You can see I'm already sweating and dripping. So got to get to that. The high today is only 83, so I'm trying to take advantage of that because in 4 days, the high is 103. So I'm trying to get the fields done before it is like sweltering hot. So I will catch you guys on the next one. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.